Imagine holding a technological breakthrough in your hands, a machine you know will eventually rewrite the rules of the world. But instead of bringing it to market, you take that machine, walk it out back, and bury it in the dirt. In 1975, Kodak built a device that could have secured their dominance for another century. Instead, they treated it as a secret to be kept from the public. By 2012, the company that had pioneered the modern camera was forced into bankruptcy, overtaken by the very digital technology they had invented and then hidden away. To understand how a multi-billion-dollar empire reaches that point, you have to look at the sheer scale of Kodak's 1980s monopoly. At that time, Kodak was synonymous with the act of remembering itself. Family birthday? Recorded on Kodak film. The same was true for weddings and every family vacation. For nearly a century, the company didn't just sell hardware, they held a lock on how the world preserved its history. This cultural dominance supported a massive industrial machine. Kodak employed 145,000 people and operated some of the largest manufacturing centers on the planet. But success at this scale often creates a specific kind of blindness. It becomes easy to believe that because the present is profitable, the future will never arrive to replace it. Kodak's leadership was about to be tested by a machine that promised to make their entire industrial complex obsolete. The turning point came when a young engineer named Steven Sasson walked into Kodak's headquarters with a toaster-sized device made of spare parts and circuit boards. This was the first digital camera. It captured an image, converted it into data, and recorded it onto a standard cassette tape. For the first time, a photograph could be taken and viewed without a single drop of chemical developer or a single sheet of paper. When Sasson demonstrated the grainy, black and white images on a television screen, the executives asked why anyone would want to look at photos that way. They pointed to the low resolution and the clunky hardware as proof that the technology was a curiosity, not a product. They were looking at a device that removed the need for the yellow boxes of film that generated their billions in profit. To the board, this wasn't an innovation to be celebrated, it was a threat to be managed. Leadership faced a choice. They could invest in this unproven digital future, or they could protect the massive, guaranteed cash flow of their chemical film business. Look at the disparity here. Film was a high-margin, recurring revenue stream. Digital technology, in its infancy, had no clear path to profit and required a complete overhaul of their manufacturing. The project was hushed up. Management told Sasson and his team that they could continue their research, but they were strictly forbidden from telling anyone outside the company about it. The executives believed they could control the timeline of the digital transition. They assumed that because Kodak was the largest player in the market, no one else could move forward without them. They chose to prioritize the next few quarters of film sales over the next few decades of the company's existence. But the science behind digital imaging wasn't a Kodak secret for long. In Japan and across the US, electronics companies began developing their own sensors and storage methods. By the late 1990s, consumer digital cameras were hitting the market. These competitors didn't have a film business to protect, so they moved with a speed that Kodak couldn't match. Kodak tried to pivot, but they were decades behind. They had spent their resources trying to extend the life of film rather than mastering the digital tools they had invented first. The tragic irony is that the very companies that eventually took Kodak's market share were using the digital principles Sasson had demonstrated in that boardroom years earlier. The end came quickly. As digital sensors improved, the demand for physical film dropped at a rate that the company's infrastructure couldn't support. The company that once employed 145,000 people and defined American photography saw its stock price plummet and its legacy dissolve. When Kodak finally filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the world's leader in imaging had become a corporate ghost, a name on a building that no longer represented the future. Kodak's fall remains a lesson in the danger of protecting a monopoly at all costs. It shows that you cannot stop the progress of technology by hiding it. You can only decide whether you want to be the one who leads the change or the one who is replaced by it.